It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. I am Marco Nobles. We have our virtual studio open, and we are joined by a very special guest. He is a composer, master musician, guitarist to be specific, band leader Stephane Wrembel. How are you, sir? How's everything?
Hello, Marco. I'm great, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. You have the new project, which is a part two, which is Django New Orleans or Série. Um, like I said, it's a part two. So talk about the inspiration for now this series that this has become of Django New Orleans.
So Django New Orleans was born during a series of concerts I was doing at Joe's Pub in New York,
Hmm.
and I had to like find new things to do, new kinds of projects. And I thought that mixing the Django sounds and the New Orleans sounds hasn't been done yet, so it should be done. Um, so Django Reinhardt, just if you go back a little bit, New Orleans is jazz. That's the home of
Hmm.
jazz. So when
Hmm.
I say the word jazz, I refer to the original archetypal frame that was born in New Orleans. For me, that's the thing that is universal to what we call jazz, because otherwise every human being has a different way of playing. But the one thing that is central to everyone is that archetypal frame. There is an invisible underlying frame that makes the music move in a certain way. And
Hmm.
Django Reinhardt, he actually found how to express that frame on the guitar. He showed us this is how you manifest the frame on the guitar. So, but it's never been combined with the rest, because when you go to New Orleans, it's a lot of sort of brass and percussion and stuff.
Hmm.
So, my idea here was to keep the two guitars and the violin. So we have the traditional, like fiery, like jazz guitar sound coming from Django Reinhardt, and remove the bass and replace it with a sousaphone
Hmm.
and drums, percussion, trumpet, saxophone, clarinet, and a singer. So now we have the brass, the original brass band, and but we also have the drive of the guitar, so that creates a very specific sound. And with the singer, we can sing the songs, so it has almost like more like a pop type of like feeling, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because now
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
singing songs, so it's also a little bit different. So all that combined gives a very unique flavor to the project. So what was like a, supposed to be like a couple of nights at Joe's Pub and 4 concerts has turned out into a full-on project. It was so good. Well, like this is so original and so good that we need to keep going and doing it. Um, and also what's interesting is not only like the instrumentation of this, but the musicians themselves. Every
Hmm.
musician in the band has a very strong personality and has his own way of doing things. So you see what I mean? You cannot just say, okay, it's two guitars and a sousaphone. Like Stephen
Hmm.
Duffy on sousaphone is a very specific character. Scott Kettner on drums, very specific character. And of course, we all live in the modern world. So we are not trying to copy 1900, you know? We
Hmm.
are past that. Since then, we have heard Jimi Hendrix, we have heard the Beatles, we have heard Pink Floyd, Metallica, we've heard hip hop, we've heard Indian music, Middle Eastern music, Brazilian music, like a lot, you know what I mean? All music is now available on internet. We now have like means of production that are like way superior than 1900. Our instruments are very reliable. The amps are very reliable. So we now we are playing also with like whatever is available in our time in terms of music and in terms of technology. So although it's still the same thing, it's still the jazz. We still go back to the archetype. We still also like play with our modern personalities. So although it still sounds like that early jazz, it's not a copy. It really feels like a modern thing, and so it has a very unique flavor.
It does indeed have a unique flavor. Each track kind of stands on its own, but it is kind of connected because you hear the French influence and you think about the French influence of New Orleans the Creole influence of New Orleans, and you hear a little bit of the brass sound and the traditional jazz. I want to take it back even further though, because Django New Orleans II and Django New Orleans One, there is it kind of an extension of Django Experiment because you've released really five projects around the Django Experiment, 4 albums and one live album. So was this, you mentioned, something that kind of started at Joe's Pub. Was this kind of like an extension of the Django Experiment albums, as it were?
It's actually completely different. Django Experiment, we have 6 albums and
Six.
alive.
Okay, I
Six
missed
and
one.
alive.
Sorry.
No, no, it's good. 6 and alive. Django Experiment is just like we just play in quintet. We play Django songs mostly, a couple of my songs, but mainly Django songs. The thing is, we play them with our modern influence. This is really like we're not trying to copy. We're trying to play with like our New York sound.
Hmm.
2020 New York sound.
Hmm.
Um, so we can be a bit adventurous in different things, and I don't know. It just has like a modern flavor to like an older thing, without touching without like denying its nature. It's still the same. You still hear the Django stuff and all, except it is 2020. We're not in 1934, and we're not trying to copy. Um, Also, when we play, we always play in the studio without headphones. We plug everything like we play in live with the same amps, same everything, and we play live like we're in concert, except
Hmm.
we're in the studio and we capture that. So it has a very a live type of song, and it's very living. Um, and that's what's similar with Django New Orleans. But Django New Orleans, it's a bit different. It's really, I don't know. We do the same thing. We go in the studio, we plug, we play live, and but we're not trying to like play exactly the Django thing with our New York influence and stuff. It's more we're staying more in the frame of the songs themselves.
Hmm.
It's a bit less adventurous in a way, but we're still responding to our nature. And we're trying to do something very diverse, in terms of the songs and stuff like that, so it doesn't get boring.
Right. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We are speaking with Stephane Wrembel. He is a master guitarist, musician, and put together this new project, Django New Orleans II, or Série, which will be released on November 14th. Um, we talked about Django and the Django experiment prior to this, which you said is different, but a lot of it is based on the influence of Django Reinhardt. So talk about the influence that Django Reinhardt has on you and who he is, because a lot of people may not know who he is and his importance.
Django Reinhardt was born in 1910 in Paris. He grew up in Paris, and he he moved to Fontainebleau afterwards. He was a gypsy, a French gypsy, northern gypsy. So the Sintis, we have two groups of the Sintis up north and the Gitanos in the south. So he was a Sinti, was a northern gypsy, and so he was a guitarist. He single-handedly created the entire modern guitar. Everything that we have now on guitar is him. And also, he revealed to us the archetype of jazz guitar. He showed us how jazz is played on guitar. And he also was like a very strong force, musical force, also with his gypsy roots. He was very powerful. He was expressing like the folk identity of the gypsies, and is really, really strong. So
Mm,
all that combined was a very powerful musician. But he was like really like a one of a kind, a little bit like Bach or Debussy, Mozart, Beethoven. The kind of guy that hears everything and can craft anything. He has orchestral stuff, he has just guitar stuff, and it really is a fascinating guitar. I would say he's the greatest guitarist of all times. For now,
mm,
we just so he's like the model, is the center of all modern guitar. if you want to play guitar with a pick and you study Django, the more you study Django, the better you get. I don't care what you play. I don't care who you are. You study Django. First, you're going to be mesmerized because it's like every time you study something of Django Reinhardt, it's like a treasure. And then your playing is just getting better and better and better. It's just incredible. So after,
Mm,
of course, you always have like two kinds of people. You have the ones who try to guard a tradition or like they invented because Django Reinhardt is not a tradition. It's just like Bach. He like showed us jazz, you know what I mean? But they are trying to build it as a tradition. So they are trying to guard something as is. So the traditionalist, or you have the people who take that and just like assume the world they live in and who they are and just move on and just like do something with it, you know, like whatever. And so for me, I have also another band. I have my quartet, and this is where I play all my compositions and stuff. So I
mm,
do my own stuff, but I also in the Django experiment and in Django New Orleans, I express also like that side of me that is like way into jazz a little bit more, you know.
mm,
So um, it's not like a thing that ensnare me. It's just like I love to express my roots. You know, I'm
mm.
French. I'm from Fontainebleau, where Django was from. And I love the gypsies and I love that. And I love jazz and I love all that. So I express that. But always also move forward and do compositions and stuff. And I'm not afraid to like change a bit the sound and stuff to make it fit like the modern equipment and the modern ears. It's a
Right.
very living thing.
Yes, yes. Um, you mentioned, getting to your roots and expressing different areas. With Django New Orleans too, you do a couple different things. Like this is the first time you're actually, singing with your voice on record, right?
Yeah.
What made it important for you to do that now with this project versus any of the projects before that you've done?
Well, this project actually was produced by one of my friends.
Hmm.
He sent me an email and he said, "Listen, there is a list of songs that I like. I would like to hear your take on them. If you can do it, I'm gonna finance the album. If you're okay with that, if you want to do them. If you don't, it's okay. But if you're interested, we can do that." So I really liked his proposals, of songs. He also requested two compositions with themes. So I was like, all right, that's a great challenge. And we had a Zoom call. We talked about each song and what kind of like instrumentation we want and stuff. And we ended up being like, you know what, that's a great project for Django New Orleans. Could have been for my
Mm,
quartet, could have been for a duo with two guitars, could have been with like anything, you know what I mean? But it ended up being like a great project for Django New Orleans. And in those 10 songs that he wanted, two of them were by Serge Gainsbourg. And Serge Gainsbourg is my favorite French singer-songwriter. I love Serge Gainsbourg. And those two songs, I love Serge Gainsbourg also because we have the same voice range and we have
mm,
the same Parisian accent. So that makes it very easy for me to sing, you know what I mean?
right.
So this is exactly perfect. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna sing those couple of songs because we have Sarah King already, great singer, Sarah King, and
Yes.
she's the singer of the band. But I was like, I can also sing a couple of songs, and she can do background vocals and stuff. It's completely fine. And so that's what like helped me like do it, like take the decision to like start singing. And actually, I must admit, it's like the best time I've ever had in the studio
Mm,
because the studio I always have this stress, the clock is turning, what I mean. There's like a lot of elements that make it for me. Some people love the studio. For me, it's a very very stressful environment because there is no crowd. You have to
mm,
play and play something meaningful without a crowd, which is very difficult. And also like you do a little mistake or something, you have to redo and read, like it's unnerving, you know what I mean? So it always like it's never easy for me. Usually
right.
I'm happy with the albums in the end, but that time in the studio is always like stressful and packed with like like time frames and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
you want to get it right and you want to come in under time and because you have to pay for studio time and all of that.
Exactly. But this time I'm not a singer, and so I don't have that kind of pressure. I'm just like, and suddenly it became like very playful. and I had the best time in my life. It was like very spiritual, actually. It's a very spiritual and beautiful floating experience. I've never had a time like that in the studio. It was really, really, really great.
That's awesome. It's Rhythm and Soul Radio. We are speaking with Stephane Wrembel, talking about his new project, Django New Orleans II, Série. Série means special edition, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. My French hasn't left me completely. um, the band is made up of New York artists, and you actually did a kickoff performance, for this project, just about a week ago, in New York at Dizzy's Club. So talk about that experience to celebrate, because I just came back from New Orleans, and there's a certain connection between New York and New Orleans that I've noticed. I don't know if it's something that comes out in the music and allows, you know this group to play these songs in a certain way, or is it just kind of something that's innate? Because I know I've felt some type of connection to New Orleans when I've gone, and I'm a lifelong New Yorker. So I'm wondering if New York musicians have a certain connection to the music, or you notice a certain connection in building this band of New York musicians paying tribute to New Orleans music.
So the connection that I can find between New York and New Orleans is it's walkable. In New York, you don't have to drive to go from eight. It's like not like Los Angeles or like a lot of the cities in America. It's like very compact. So you once you're like midtown or something, like you have a lot of clubs downtown, and so you can
Mm-hmm,
always take a subway, take a cab. You can walk around. It's a different vibe when you can do that. New York City is a place where you walk a lot, and so is New Orleans. I know mostly the French quarters,
mm-hmm,
because this is where there is like a lot of music. So when I go to the French quarters and I go everywhere, listen to music and stuff. The big difference is New Orleans is keeping the music, the tradition that was there, like the primal tradition, the archetype, and New York is always moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. But
mm-hmm.
yeah, there is something similar in that, in like the fact that there's a nightlife, there's a party life, there's something there. It's not as party life as the French Quarter, which is really like Disneyland for adults. But yeah, there is something, and there is also like great musicians, like amazing level musicians in both cities. But with yeah, like
Yes.
with different drives. And it's true that all the musicians I play with, they all went to New Orleans. They were there. They studied there. And like everyone knows what New Orleans is about. So everyone has like carries that flavor, but also the New York thing of moving forward. And for example, my drummer is married to a Brazilian. His
Mm,
wife is Brazilian, and he spent like years he lived in Brazil. He studies Brazilian music, so he has that in his playing. He has that color, and he also spent time in New Orleans. So when he plays New Orleans, but he also has like, if needed, like that little like Brazilian angle, for example. Like. Uh, David is French, the percussionist, so he plays the washboard but laptop like we do in France instead of like on the chest. So he has
mm.
like a bit of a different way of playing, but same thing. He spent a lot of time in New Orleans and stuff. So we all like come from a different background like that, with yeah, very different influences, but we all meet at the same point, including New Orleans and New York and ourselves and where we're from and stuff. And that gives like, it's like New York. You have a bank building, and next to it you have a church, and next to it you have a brownstone, and it all works. You're like,
Right,
it's not
right.
supposed to work, but it does work. You know what I mean? There is a thing. This is what it is. It's natural. It's like that, and it works. And this is the same thing with Django New Orleans. We all come from a different place, but for some reason there is a chemistry that is common to all nine of us, and boom, it works.
Absolutely. Rhythm and Soul Radio, we've been talking with Stephane Wrembel. The new project is Django New Orleans II, or Série. It is available everywhere beginning November 14th. And again, congratulations on the shows at Dizzy's Club in New York. And I know you mentioned you have projects with your quartet, and I guess later on next year you'll actually perform more with the Django New Orleans II. project. How can people find you, follow you, whether it's your website or any social media they can get more information?
Oh yeah, well, I have a website, stephanerembel.com. I also have a Facebook page that's very active, a personal page and a band page. I have an Instagram which is very active. I just opened a TikTok. We're gonna start to put like some guitar videos.
Okay.
So there is like plenty of places to find us and know what we're playing. I also have an account on X, so I post things there, musical thing, which doesn't seem to interest much people on X. They're interested about other things but music on X, but whatever. I post a few things regardless, and yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you for taking the time and sharing a little bit of information and history with us. And certainly we love the music. Django New Orleans II or Série is the new album available everywhere beginning November 14th. But right now we're going to play Waters of March from Django New Orleans II or Série. Again, thank you very much, Stephane Wrembel.
Thank you.
It's Rhythm and Soul Radio.